So now we're in the sixth part of the Peloponnesian Wars.
Since Sicily has only been briefly mentioned in this video, we will begin with a basic history and geopolitical survey of the island.
Oh, please do. Like, I've been always so confused about what the heck's going on in Sicily. I've heard the Tyrant of Syracuse, and then there was some of it when it appeared in the Pyrrhus series, where was apparently a lot of it. There were Greek city-states, and there were the Carthaginians, I think, threatening it, and then, you know what I mean. So this has been something that I've neglected, but I am interested in learning about this island and like what the heck's going on there, you know?
Sicily has been on the radar of the Hellenic world since the Bronze Age, and in the early Archaic period, Greek and Phoenician colonies were built on the Sicilian coast. By the 4th century BC, Sicily had many colony city-states, and a political scene just as complex as the one in mainland Greece. The biggest city was Syracuse, a rich merchant hub which regularly switched between tyrannical and democratic governments. Syracuse was very protective of its sphere of influence on the island, opposing foreign interventions and trying to mediate intra-island conflicts in its favour. Athens, for its part, had some cultural and political ties to the smaller Ionian colonies on the island, and saw them as a counterweight to Syracuse. Meanwhile, Sparta had similar ties to the island's Dorian colonies, including Syracuse. Despite this, Athens' military intervention in Sicily in 415 BCE was a new frontier for them, unprecedented in scale. The military commitment was massive, consisting of 5,100 hoplites, 480 archers, 700 slingers, 120 other light infantry, 30 cavalry, and 134 triremes. Along with it were Nicias and Alcibiades, the city's top generals, alongside Lamachos. As Athens set sail, the Hermes scandal festered, as witnesses were called and Athens' quasi-political mystery clubs were blamed. Alcibiades was involved in some of the oligarchic clubs, though Donald Kagan believes he was not part of the sacrilege. Athens gathered troops from its allies and set sail, arriving first on the east coast of southern Italy near Rhegium in modern-day Calabria. Many coastal cities gave them a cold reception, fearing the chaos of war coming to their shores.
Calabria is the place where the beautiful but endangered Calabrian Greek dialect is spoken, a mix of Greek and Italian. That's really cool.
And Rhegium echoed this sentiment. Nicias claimed this lack of support showed the futility of their campaign. In response, Alcibiades instead suggested a diplomatic love-bombing campaign across Sicily.
Love bombing, yes. This is interesting. This Sicily front, I have to say. And Athens, I do feel like Athens is kind of jumping all over the place. Like, he's mentioned a few times in this series, I'm remembering. And forgive me if I've missed some things. This is the first series where I'm recording each part in a separate day, because usually in the past I've always sat down and just watched a series all at once. But the reason I'm doing it now, only one recording a day, is because I kind of want it to be fresh. Because my past series, you'll probably notice me get tired as we approach near the end. Like, I'll kind of be like a little excited more in the beginning, but by the end I'm more quiet and just like, blanked. So this is more to fight off any fatigue, and if this works out well, I'm gonna keep doing this. If anyone even notices, you probably haven't, or he's mentioned a few times that like Athens has really exerted itself, and like I said, I think this is probably, that might be their undoing in a sense, like committing so much resources, especially to a place that's not on mainland Greek, going all the way to Sicily to continue this. Just feel like it isn't a good idea, because the Athenians for the most part are winning, at least it's coming across like they're kind of dictating the course of the war so far. But, I know how this ends. Sparta wins. And so I'm wondering if this is going to be the turning point. Athens putting itself out in way too many areas, way too many fronts, and that could just end up being their undoing. You know what I mean? So, again, I'm not sure, but I feel like maybe they should probably focus more on mainland / the islands of Greece, because I guess technically Sicily is a part of the Hellenic world, and it already has Greek influence, so I guess, yeah, you could definitely see it as a part of the Greek sphere for sure, but I don't know, I feel like probably a little more closer to home, they should consolidate and worry about those gains, but I don't know.
Lamachos, an old career soldier, had a third plan, simply to sail to Syracuse and seize the city. However, he eventually sided with Alcibiades, and diplomacy began. Meanwhile, the government of Syracuse was engaged in a debate about how to deal with the Athenian attack. General Hermocrates pushed for capitulation, demanding an alliance be formed against Athens, while his counterpart, Athenagoras, considered fear of the Athenians to be unsound. While this was happening, Athens moved down south, gaining allies along the coast of Sicily, like the city of Naxos, before reaching Messenia, a town which let them into their territory and allowed them to set up their camps in Catana. Around this time, a trireme from Athens arrived, asking Alcibiades to return to be tried for the sacrilege. Alcibiades agreed to return. However, while they were passing through the Athenian colony of Thurii, he mysteriously disappeared. He was not found, and when the ship left empty-handed, he resurfaced and sailed to the Peloponnese. Thus, Nicias was left as the de facto head of the Athenian army in Sicily, overseeing a strategy he opposed, but one his troops demanded he continue.
That was a weird little episode there. What the heck happened? Like, disappeared, reappeared. I thought for a second he was just murdered, but I don't know. That was a weird little episode. I'm getting a weird vibe so far. Like, from the ending of last part, with the defacing of the statue, the ominous signs, and that, like, weird little moment there. I'm getting a weird feeling now. I'm thinking something bad's about to happen, especially to the Athenians. Like, we know there has to be a point in the war with the tables turn and Sparta gets the upper hand. I'm wondering if we're already here at this point. Again, like, there's a weird ominous vibe. Am I the only one getting that? Like, I don't know.
Nicias wanted to avoid engaging with Syracuse's superior cavalry, so he devised an ingenious plan. He dispatched a secret agent to claim that the Athenians had stored their weapons away from their camp. Syracuse eagerly accepted the story and left their city. At dawn, the Athenians and their allies landed covertly just outside the city and took up positions between the coast.
A little trickery there. Okay, Athens, I see you. Like, they literally just said, I love it in war when just they do that. Like, that was so underhanded and, like, full of trickery. But, like, it's funny that so far it's working. They're catching the Syracusans a little, with their pants down, to say. Though I'm wondering, like, I don't know, I'm getting a weird vibe from this little adventure. I'm wondering if something bad is gonna happen. Or maybe they might just get Syracuse easily, I don't know, I guess we'll find out.
Coast and the Temple of Zeus, a position fortified by slopes and the sea. There, they built up a fortified stockade. The Syracusans only realized their mistake when they arrived at Catana and saw the Athenian camp there empty. By the time the Syracusans had hightailed it back, Athens had the advantage and was in a position the Syracusan cavalry could not reach.
Wow.
The armies clashed.
Completely negated their advantage, huh? They were afraid of the cavalry and, like, setting up a position through trickery. Like, that's amazing. Like, so far, a really strong start for Athens, I have to say.
the very next day. The Athenians placed their own troops in the centre, the Argives and Mantineans on their right near the coast, and their other allies on the left. The Syracusan army was about the same size, with the cavalry on its right. The Athenians charged first, surprising the Syracusans, but the locals managed to fight back. The fight was intense, but the left flank of Syracuse began to wane under an elite push by the Argives. Athens then pushed from their centre and caused the Syracusans to flee. However, due to their need to stay in a narrow spot where the enemy cavalry couldn't break their lines, the Athenians did not pursue further.
We are unsure why Nicias? Yeah, I'm so sorry, my brain farted right there. Nicias allowed this. Explanations range from superstition to ensuring it would be looted for the city instead of the army. Again, this is an interesting development. Obviously, the Athenians had the advantage and basically won the battle in a sense that the Syracusans are running away, but I feel like pressing the advantage might have been more paramount in this situation to gain a real, complete, decisive victory and to break the enemy. You know, but I understand the caution, like, they don't want the cavalry to be of use. And if they leave from their position, that's what will happen. But at the same time, pursuing a routed, disorganized enemy with the chance of probably destroying them might have been better. I don't know, I think he might have pursued, but then again, we've also seen enemies who are being routed instantly turn back and start fighting, so again, it's one of those situations in war at the heat of the, like, I'm debating right now here thousands of years later, but in the heat of the moment, right, calls like that are tough to make. I'm thinking maybe should have pursued and destroyed them, but then again, I also see how that could turn into a bad situation. I don't know, but allowing them to recuperate, and what are the chances they'll go back and fight them at their advantageous position, right? So I don't know. I guess we'll find out if it was good or not for Nicias, right?
The Athenian inferiority in cavalry now prevented them from turning their victory into a rout. The Syracusans went to the road to Helopus, as Athens broke the bridge towards the main city of Syracuse. Syracuse lost 260 men, while Athens lost 50 men, and appeared to be in a strong position to threaten the city. In the aftermath of the battle, the Syracusans took positions on the hill of the Temple of Zeus, close to the left flank of the Athenian army. Nicias then retired to Catani for the winter, being cautious not to attack the city instantaneously. Athens had succeeded in its first onslaught on Syracuse, but a grueling siege was to follow. Meanwhile, Syracuse sent envoys to Corinth, who agreed to send troops to them. The envoys then moved to Sparta. Simultaneously, Alcibiades had arrived in Sparta and was terrifying them with supposed Athenian plans to take over Sicily and Carthage to forge a so-called United States of Force. Sparta sent
a sort of United States of America. No, I'm joking. I don't know, Carthage sucks, so I think they definitely could have done that. No, I'm joking. For those of you who might be new, I hate Carthage. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Carthage, especially after the Second Punic War and how, you know, useless they were to Hannibal. So like, and also that every time Carthage appears, they're always like losing, you know? So I'm like, they might be the biggest losers I've seen in warfare in all these videos. I don't know, I'm not a fan of them. But either way, like, this is big talk, right? Like, oh, we can just take Sicily. They were gonna take Carthage, which I believe they could completely do. But okay, I'm joking. But this is awfully ambitious just to take all of that. Like, he's talking a big game, right? For sure.
a Mothax, or half Spartan half Helot called Gylippus, to lead a relief force to Sicily. All told, the reinforcements headed Syracuse's way included 5,000 to 6,000 hoplites, 1,200 cavalry, and 100 triremes, on top of Gylippus's force of 700 armed sailors, 1,000 hoplites, 1,000 indigenous Sikh warriors, and 100 cavalry. In the spring of 414 BCE, Athens began the siege. They moved by sea down to the coast of Lyon. They then marched onto the heights via the pass of Euryalus, where they encountered a force that Syracuse had sent to occupy the hills. There was a clash, but the Syracusans failed to push off the Athenian advance. Athens moved to the city, then commenced its long-practiced strategy of blockade by building walls from Leon to Syracuse's great harbour. 2 forts were erected at Labdilum at the western heights and Sicca at the southern heights. The Syracusans dashed out to thwart the construction of these stockades, but were unable to form a line and were forced to withdraw. Syracuse built its own wall from the southwest to cut off Athens. Athens waited for a while as the wooden wall was being built, and then struck back, deploying 300 hoplites and heavily armoured light troops to capture an outpost near the wall, causing the defending garrison there to flee. Nevertheless, Syracuse continued building their wall, extending it across a
wall-on-wall combat. I haven't seen so many walls built since Julius Caesar. You know, the Julius Caesar series we covered from Kings and Generals, where Caesar was basically building a wall like almost every video. Like, Caesar must have studied the Peloponnesian War a lot. He must have been like, man, look at all the walls they're building. I might have to do this for my own campaigns. This reminds me of like when Pompey and like Caesar had their engineering duel at the battle / siege of Dyrrachium, you know what I mean, which was insane, by the way. That's probably like one of the most complex fights I've ever seen. Either way, yeah, wall-on-wall combat, engineering duel now here.
Marsh near the Great Harbour. Athens tried to strike again and split the Syracusan force in two, one towards the city to the right, and one towards the Anapus River to the left. The 300 hoplites moved behind the left flank, but were routed by the Syracusan cavalry, who then attacked the Athenian right. Both wings were routed, and Old Man Lamachos was killed in the battle. Syracuse only retreated when the main bulk of the Athenian army arrived. Syracusan troops who had previously fled resurfaced from the city and formed up. While engaging the Athenians, others went and destroyed a large part of the Athenian walls. The Athenians advanced once more as their navy entered the Great Harbour and camped at Plemmyrium. As Syracuse was angrily switching generals, a dashing Gylippus arrived to save the day. He landed at Himera, where locals greeted him as a saviour, then marched towards Syracuse while a Corinthian boat under Gongylus slipped past the Athenians. Gylippus saw a gap on the northern heights near Epipolae, which Nicias had failed to secure, and slipped through. Nicias refused to engage, and Gylippus camped outside the city. The day after, he seized Labdilum, allowing Syracuse to build their wall through that area, cutting the Athenian lines in twain. Nicias responded by going to Plemmyrium at the southern entrance to the Great Harbour, where the Athenian navy was. Athens managed to fight and defeat Gigillus in the northern heights. Using this as a distraction, Gylippus engaged in a battle away from the walls. He used Syracusan cavalry and javelin throwers to rout the Athenian left flank. He then extended his own wall, stopping Athens from blockading. Athens began to lose morale as more ships were able to break the blockade. Gylippus left to collect more allies in Sicily, and Syracuse sent envoys for more reinforcements. Nicias asked for more help from Athens, who sent another army under Eurymedon and Demosthenes of Pylos fame. By the spring of 413 BCE, the Peloponnesian relief force included 2,000 hoplites, while the Sicilian relief force had 2,300 soldiers. Athens received 250 Athenian cavalry.
This has escalated so far. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were like talking this big game, yeah, we'll just take Sicily. And now look at it's just evolved. It really does give me like Cold War vibes. You know, like, yeah, it gives me Cold War vibes. Like, these wars everywhere. Um, I'm enjoying all the engineering siege warfare. It's kind of amazing. Athens got beat in its own game right there when they started that. And now it's just like, it's just evolving into this big, giant thing here. And I'm like, yeah, the longer this goes on for Athens, it seems like the less advantageous, am I right, for them? So, it seems like things aren't going so well for them. So, I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna end. I don't think they can take it, man. I don't think they're gonna be able to.
30 mounted archers, 400 Sicilian mercenary cavalry, 5,000 hoplites, and 73 triremes. Gylippus asked Syracuse to attack the Athenian navy, but they failed miserably, as their own navy split into 35 triremes from the Great Harbour and 45 from the small harbour to the east. Athens deployed 25 ships to confront the former and 35 ships to the latter. At first, both Athenian forces were forced to retreat into the harbour, but the undisciplined Syracusans were destroyed in an ill-advised pursuit into that bottleneck. On land, the distraction of the naval...
Again, on sea, the Athenians are a beast, but it seems like... I didn't let him finish, but it seems like while they're winning on the sea, things are gonna go bad on land.
Battle allowed Gylippus to take the 3 forts at Plemmyrium. Athens was now trapped, like the Nemean lion under the arms of Heracles, as they were blocked from receiving supplies from the outside, while Syracuse's remaining ships...
Something I really enjoy about kings and generals, at least when I've watched his Greek videos, is that he'll throw in these similes and metaphors to Greek mythology. He's as screwed over as Cadmus in the legendary story, or like, you know, something like that. He's as wasted as Dionysus on a Saturday night, like, you know what I mean? No, I like it, by the way. I find it hilarious. I just noticed that he only ever does it. I mean, I'm sure he's done it for other series, but like, I do notice like this is the only time I've seen him kind of do stuff like that. At least in the Greek videos, like with Alexander in this, like he'll just drop those, which is something I noticed he hasn't done for all the other series we've watched. So I don't know. It's something I've noticed, but always appreciated. I'm sure I talked about it somewhere in the Alexander series. But still.
Ships attacked their...
He's as horny as Zeus at any moment, like... I'm sorry, let's get back to this.
Navy with ramming attacks. Without room to maneuver, Athens lost many vessels. After a day's break...
Oh my goodness! Holy crap, the Athenians... Like I said, they've been almost unstoppable on land until now. I mean, on land. On sea until now. Like, until now, the Athenians have kind of dominated every, like, major naval thing, but the thing is, they were completely trapped here, and... Holy crap, I gotta hear that one more time, guys.
Athens was now trapped, like the Nemean lion under the arms of Heracles, as they were blocked from receiving supplies from the outside, while Syracuse's remaining ships attacked their navy with ramming attacks. Without room to maneuver, Athens lost many...
Of course, them being trapped, and then without the ability to maneuver their superior navy... Wow. But look at how much they lost, oh my goodness. The tables are completely turning, dude.
Vessels. After a day's break, the defenders had pushed the Athenian navy fully out of their harbour. It was around this time that Demosthenes arrived and dashed to Epipolae, likely to the cheers of the Athenians, to whom he must have appeared as a shining saviour. Demosthenes tried to attack Epipolae during the night, and initially took the Syracusan counterwall. However, once the locals formed up, they managed to push the Athenians back. The retreat turned into a disaster, and the army's newly found confidence was shattered. The Athenian generals met and were forced to confront the direness of their situation. Demosthenes was now the moderate one, hoping to
Demosthenes compromised by saying they could move elsewhere and keep fighting within Sicily, but this was rebuked. Yeah, the situation is dire. Like, the moment Sicily got everyone else involved, mainly the Spartan/Peloponnesian forces, yeah, again, this had to either be a somewhat quick conquest, or like, you know, you needed to probably devote basically everything to this, because things have completely turned for the Athenians. At this point, it seems like they just need to get out, because I feel like if they stay any longer, they're gonna be, like, mauled. So, man.
Return to Athens, but Nicias dubiously claimed he knew Syracusan moles who would be willing to surrender the city to them. After much discussion, the army remained. However, no sooner had they made this decision, Gylippus returned with his reinforcements, causing Nicias to change his mind and discuss a retreat. As they were about to withdraw, a lunar eclipse occurred as Gaia hid Selene from her brother Helios. The soothsayers regarded this as a bad omen, and demanded that the army wait 27 days before moving. So, the army decided to wait for about a month, which allowed their enemies to blockade them. Many of the more superstitious men supported them, as fatally did Nicias. Right before the Athenians finally tried to leave, Syracuse dashed and broke through the Athenian walls. The day after...
Dude, they're completely surrounded. That's exactly what I was saying. Like, it seems like you're gonna be surrounded. Get out. I think it's too late. I think a fight's about to break out. I don't think the Athenians... I have to give it to Syracuse. What the heck, dude? The Syracusans handled this like champs. Like, they got jumped by the Athenians. Proceed to basically use diplomacy to get all the allies it needed, and then has just been wrecking the Athenians. Like, holy crap, Syracuse. Like, I've never seen them at work like this. So, this is like... They're a frightening force on their own.
76 Syracusan ships sailed forth to meet 86 Athenian response ships, beating the Ionian invaders in the attack. Athens managed to
Holy crap, Syracuse, man. I'm putting respect on Syracuse, because they are like, they have turned the script. They were the ones being invaded, and now they're the ones, like, beating the crap out of the Athenians, man. Wow.
Save the crews, a bittersweet consolation. Syracuse blocked the Great Harbour and essentially besieged Athens from within. Athens built a second wall to protect themselves as they would try to escape by sea, and if not, march to their nearest ally. Athens tried to use force by using their heavy ships to break through the enemy's forces, but ended up failing. Thus it was time to leave via land, which was risky.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Athenians get this wrecked in naval combat. This is the first time they're just having so many losses on sea. Like, before this, they were basically unstoppable in naval combat. Now they're just getting wrecked. Like, they're losing so many ships. Wow, like I said, I feel like this is the turning point of the war. This is where Athens loses so much, and I think it's because, yeah, this whole front they opened in Sicily has come back to bite them in the butt.
For the countryside was filled with Syracusan cavalrymen and enemy villagers. Syracuse also blocked all easily traversable overland routes with guards. 2 days after losing its sea, the 40,000 survivors of the battle set forth, with Nicias at the front and Demosthenes at the back. They marched across Anipus and camped on a hill, but they settled in inhabited land the next day. On the third day, they realized the Acrean cliff they planned to travel through was blocked, and failed in pushing through after 2 attempts on 2 different days. On the 5th day, they fought once more and broke through, but only for a short distance, with supplies now running low. As night fell and Selene set forth on her chariot to Endymion, Nicias and Demosthenes tried to march elsewhere. Their new destination was Camarina or Gela. The night march ended with the two forces being split, with Demosthenes losing control over his half, which scattered. The next day, he was caught by the Syracusans, who surrounded his force and carpet-bombed them with javelins until Demosthenes surrendered with his 6,000 survivors.
They lost so bad, holy crap. Dude, Athens. I feel like this is like you know when like Napoleon invaded frickin' Russia, and that's like the straw that broke his military might, and then from then on it's just a downward spiral. I feel like that's kind of like Athens' invasion of Sicily. like I feel like this is the thing that breaks their back, because this is a disaster. Like, everything about this has just been a disaster. So many missed opportunities, so many fumbles. Yo, Athens. I don't know what to say. I'm just shocked. I'm so shocked by Syracuse right now. These guys literally weren't involved. I mean, they were mentioned earlier this series, but what I mean is, like, they've suddenly become the bigger players. Like, they've managed to do what the Spartans / the main Peloponnesian thing wasn't able to do for a large majority of the war, and really just, like, hand Athens major losses. Like, I mean, granted, like, obviously the Peloponnesian reinforcements and aid is playing a big part in this. But you know, like, what I mean, before this Sicilian adventure, like, Athens was dominating the war. Like, Syracuse is responsible so much for now this script changing, and, like, wow, I'm just amazed at Syracuse right now. I did not expect them to just completely flip the script, you know? Holy crap.
Nicias and his troops reached the river Irenaeus and took up a position on high ground. Syracuse eventually caught up with them, and then Nicias realized everyone else had surrendered. Nicias tried to bribe his way out, but the Syracusans bombarded them with javelins for an entire day. A night escape was planned, but that plan was discovered and foiled. The day after, the Athenians continued to the river Asinaris, where they were attacked while trying to drink water. Nicias tried to surrender to Gylippus, but the Syracusans continued their massacre. The few survivors were captured. Nicias and Demosthenes, the moderate and the radical, ended up being executed.
Holy crap. Syracuse has no chill. Gylippus tried to save his enemies, but the Syracusans were too... Yeah, I imagine they were. Like, they got jumped by the Athenians, and it's like... Yeah, at this point... that is such a disaster. Holy crap. I'm sorry, I'm just so shocked. That is a disaster. Like, this has to break Athens. If Athens somehow recovers and then proceeds to start winning again, I'm gonna be amazed, but this seems like it has to break them to a degree, or at least severely weaken them from now on.
Most of the few survivors would not see their homes again. They would be placed in a quarry, where they would be forced into manual labor under horrible conditions. As the sun set on that fateful day, Athens' pride was crushed, and its expeditionary force was destroyed. We can imagine the ghost of Orpheus playing a ballad to a weeping Athena herself, who was a patron goddess of both cities.
Okay, I think you're having way too much fun with these Greek references and puns, kings and generals. I love it, by the way. But I'm telling you guys, he's having a lot of fun with them. He keeps dropping them every video. I love kings and generals. He's my favorite YouTuber. But man, I think this had to humble the Athenians a bit. Before this, throughout the entire series, they are so aggressive, so prideful. Like last video, when they invaded the Spartan ally, and they were like, well, we can do whatever we want. We can conquer whoever we want. Might makes right. Like, yeah, apparently you can't, Athens. Like, eventually you're gonna get, you know, your butt kicked. And, yeah, essentially it just breaks a lot of the Athenian pride and prestige, especially on sea. The amount of ships they lost and naval conflicts they lost in this Sicily adventure has to, like, completely destroy almost that prestige slash almost invulnerability of the Athenian, like, naval power.
We can also imagine a Syracusan and an Athenian mother crying before the hecatombs of their sons, cursing the ones who brought them to this spot. Like many powers before and since, they overcommitted and were blinded by their imperial goals, and thus ended up with a massive loss.
That's kind of what I said earlier, right? Like, it seems like they're overexerting themselves, and they probably should. Like I said, I think definitely jumping all the way here to Sicily was a bit much. I think probably would have been better if they, just focus here on the main stage of Greece, like, you know, the Peloponnesian and whatnot, mainland, and then maybe later on jump all the way to Sicily. But then again, yeah, I feel like they try to do too much, too quick, in too many different areas slash fields. You know what I mean? And that's what I was thinking.
Speaking of this campaign, Thucydides had this to say. The greatest action of all those that took place during the war, and, so it seems to me, at least, the greatest of any which we know to have happened to any of the Greeks, it was the most glorious for those who won, and the most disastrous for those who were defeated. However, the war was not over. The second phase of the war was yet to begin, and the political turmoil in Athens would be boiling. The conflict will return to all parts of Greece, from the Hellespont to the islands of Crete. To the east, in the land of Ahures and Iazates, the King of Kings was considering entering the geopolitical game, and we have yet to see what will become of Alcibiades.
Holy crap. A new player has arrived. I was wondering when, like, Persia was gonna just sit there and be like, maybe we should get involved. Seems like they're about to jump in any moment, so a complete third player in the war. I mean, granted, there's been so many players because it's just how freaking divided Greece is. But, you know, at least a non-Greek player is about to jump in. And I also just love how Crete has kind of just been its own thing the entire time. It's just, like, mining. I mean, granted, I'm pretty sure you mentioned earlier it was involved to some capacity. But so far, it's like, it seems to be more independent, you know? So I just like Crete just there. So much is going on. The disaster at freaking Sicily, Darius showing up, possibly gonna get involved, Alcibiades, guys, I can't pronounce names, get used to it if you're gonna stick around this channel, is now here, and freaking Sparta, just so much is happening. What the fudge, man? Too much is happening. Like, it's all over the place, this war. And also, Rome's over there. Like, I know it's not important at the moment, but, like, let's not ignore Rome. Rome is around. You know? Crap. And then there's Macedon, who's gonna conquer it all, you know? But then Rome's gonna conquer it all. You know what I mean? Alright, let's get back to this.
While we ponder what will happen and process through the massive chaos of the campaign, it is good to consider how war affects those who enter its jaws. The greatest distillation of this comes from a friend of Pericles and a predecessor in the art of history to Thucydides, Herodotus of Halicarnassus, who reminds us that no one should be so foolish to prefer war to peace, in which, instead of sons burying their fathers, fathers bury their sons.
You know, I'm gonna end the video right here. I think that's a pretty good haunting quote to leave it at. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna end the video right here. I'll see you tomorrow when we start the next part. Until then, bye.